There are so many of you out there who, again, say you're struggling to get subscribers. This is one of the big reasons people don't subscribe to your channels. It's true, people watch your channel for you. And if you're struggling to get people to subscribe to your channel, it's your fault. But don't be frustrated. I don't want you to feel discouraged. This is something that you can fix. You can get people not only to subscribe to your channel, but keep them watching on your channel video after video after video. They're gonna be dedicated members of your audience for a long time. I'm gonna share a couple very simple things that you can do that will explode your subscriber growth exponentially. Let's go. The first thing you have to do on your channel is build relatable characters. This helps foster emotional connection with your audience. It's going to make them feel like they know you, that they can trust you. It's going to make them engage with you and your channel on a deeper level. And overall, you have to have this. If you are not fostering this type of connection with your audience, then they will not stay. Remember, YouTube is a platform of connection, and people have to feel connected to you in some sort of way in order to help them stay on your channel and not just bounce to some other channel where they can get that emotional connection. So how do you do this? Well, the first thing that I would recommend is focus on your emotions. This is going to come through in things like facial expressions, tone of your voice, speed of talking, your gesturing. Think about it from the perspective of your audience. How do you want them to feel when they're watching your video? I'm gonna say that one more time because this is super, super important. How do you want your audience to feel? What emotion do you want them to feel? So rather than focusing on your own emotional output to the camera, focus on what you want your audience to feel. Do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel sad? Do you want them to feel scared or annoyed or frustrated? Really focus on how you want them to feel. Imagine you're having a difficult conversation with somebody, but it's someone you really care about, right? When you have a conversation with them, you're not going to think, well, I want to come across this way, but you will much easier be able to think to yourself, I want them to walk away from the conversation feeling a specific way about me and whatever it is we're talking about. And that can help guide you through that conversation so much better than just focusing inward on yourself and your own emotion that you're trying to output. Now, both is good, but I think that the focusing on your audience's emotion, the emotion you want them to feel, is sort of a secret hack. It's a really, really smart thing to do because then it focuses more on the people that matter. Like, of course, it's great if you can make yourself feel or come across a certain way, but if you can make your audience feel a specific way, that's going to make all the difference. And honestly, since you're not in the room with them, like tone of voice, gesturing, facial expressions, those are all the things that are going to help you show those emotions forward, and it's going to help kind of mold how the audience feels. The second one is to allow your quirks and unique traits to come through. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be weird. Just think about me on this channel, Julia and Ricky on this channel. We're not coming across weird all the time, but we definitely have our own little quirks. We have our things that we think are funny. We have the things that we mention. I oftentimes mention that I'm a cheapskate, right? It's just those little things that allow the audience to get to know you a little bit better. And it's going to show a little bit of vulnerability because a lot of the things where, like, if I'm talking to the camera and I mess up, well, maybe I could make a cut there, but if I just mess up, if I could just make fun of myself a little bit and go, I can't tell, cat got my tongue today, that's a way better way to approach it. And it just lets the audience know that you're comfortable with them. And people are really gonna see that shine through and they're gonna like that. So I would highly recommend doing this one so that you can allow yourself to be vulnerable with your audience, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. The last piece of this is allowing your audience to see your character growth and development. Now, what I mean by that is over time on your channel, you're going to change and improve, and you're going to become, a different person just throughout different stages of your life. I don't necessarily even mean as a YouTuber. I just mean that as a person, you're going to grow and change, right? We are dynamic people. But on YouTube, if we think of it like a pie chart, right? YouTube is only seeing like a 3% sliver of who we are. And so we really have to choose and curate what we allow people to see. And we want to allow people to see as well of a rounded person as possible on our channel, because when someone sees you as a well-rounded person, they're going to connect with you better. So if my channel was about cars, right? Maybe supercars, that would be super awesome. Maybe I think about, well, what's my audience seeing about me? Well, they see that I love cars. Maybe they see me at my house occasionally so they can kind of see how I interact with my family members briefly. But then maybe I also, go on errands and they see me doing different things. Maybe I'm running a business or whatever. You can think about what elements of your life that the audience are seeing. And some things you may not want to share, and that's okay. But if you can give them a little bit of a well-rounded version of yourself, you're going to build the character on your channel that people want to come back to. Someone that they feel like they relate to, someone that they feel like they trust. That is the goal of character building here. I'm not talking about pretending to be someone on camera that you're not. That's not what this is about at all. You want to be yourself, but you only get to show so much of yourself. And so you have to be so careful to show the pieces of yourself that you want the audience to see. And I'm not talking about hiding things either. I'm just talking about giving them the best version of yourself at all times. I'm gonna show you a couple clips of some big YouTubers who have started on YouTube a long time ago and they just weren't near as good as they are now. And then I'm gonna show you a newer clip of them so that you can see the contrast. Let's take a look.
Do it! Do what? Just do it!
I am sitting on $5 million in cash and competing for it. Open the gates!
And this really cool light right behind it, so I really hope this turns out. So market, housing prices, and Bitcoin recently reaching brand new record highs.
So the first one is forgetting to set up permalinks.
Oh, that's a terrible mistake.
AI has completely changed the game, and then Google didn't do us any favors, did they?
The difference is huge, right? It's honestly kind of shocking to see big, successful YouTubers in a state where they just are not on the top of their game, but that's the growth trajectory that can happen on YouTube. Right now, we are actually starting a storytelling challenge, a 10-day challenge where you can walk through the steps of becoming better on YouTube. You're gonna be a better storyteller, you're gonna keep people hooked on your videos longer, and you're going to build a community of people who relate to you and who trust you. If that's interesting to you, if you have 10 days and you want to dig in and become better, and if you want to exponentially grow your success on YouTube, go check out the challenge, link in the description below. We'd love to see you on the inside. All right, the second piece that I want to talk to you about today is leaning into conflict. Now, this one might sound funny right off the bat, but it is so important to keep the viewers hooked, right? So when we're talking about the storyline of your video, we need to have some sort of curiosity. We need to make them wonder what's going to happen next. And you might think to yourself, well, Nathan, in my videos, there's not a lot of storyline. I'm just teaching people how to repair their car, or I'm just showing people the gameplay, or I'm doing ASMR. How do I do this? How do I make conflict? Okay, well, let's talk about ASMR. What's something that people come to your channel for? It's sort of like for this satisfying, crackling or sounds or, whatever, right? So what's the conflict there? Well, maybe there's something that's satisfying, and then maybe there's something that could potentially be satisfying, and they know that it could potentially be satisfying. So there's just like that almost a little bit of like, I always see those slime ones, the slime ASMR. So imagine that, you see this perfect slime, and people who do ASMR, they like to just kind of run their fingers over it, and then you can hear it in the microphone, right? Well, as you do that, and they know that you're going to break into that slime, you're building some tension, right? They're wondering, is it gonna be crackly slime? Is it gooey slime? Does it have sparkles or sprinkles or whatever in it? That's tension that you're building. There's some amount of conflict that's building there. And then as you continue to do your video, you can break some of that tension. Now, okay, let's talk about an auto repair channel. Imagine that you have a job that has to be done. Well, you can either just do the job, but what if you put some sort of stakes around it? You could tell people, if your brakes fail, then that could put you in a life-threatening situation. This is something that you have to check. And here are the 3 easy steps that you can do that. And then maybe as you're changing the brakes, you could tell a story of someone that you knew who had brake failure. There's so much that you can do, and you can say, this whole story came down to this one little piece, and you can show them the one little piece that failed. There is storytelling, there is some amount of conflict, and then some resolution that could be built into that. I mentioned a little bit earlier some stakes, building stakes in. This is something that a lot of us don't think to do, especially for channels that are not challenge style channels. But building stakes, setting a foundation for what has to happen by the end of the video. Maybe you're setting yourself a time limit. Maybe you're setting yourself a budget. Maybe you have other limited resources. Like if you're sewing, maybe you have a sewing channel, and you have to create something, but you only have this amount of fabric, or you have very little space, or maybe your sewing machine is broken. Set some stakes around it. And it doesn't even mean that your sewing machine has to be broken for you to do a challenge without a sewing machine. You could just say, in today's video, I'm gonna be doing this, and I don't have a sewing machine today. I'm gonna be doing this all by hand, but I have a specific amount of time. As you build stakes into it, it gets a lot more interesting. Same thing, kind of weaving that into challenges. If you're struggling to find conflict in your video, turning it into some sort of challenge can make all the difference. It's again, all those time elements. It's the, limited resources, limited money, whatever it is. this is a great way to get started. It may be hard for you to figure out exactly what that looks like on your channel. And if you're struggling to see what it looks like, comment your channel topic below and the style of videos that you do, and we'll see if we can jump in and give you some ideas. I think that that would be awesome. Okay, the last part of this that I talked about a little bit earlier is the tension, right? The tension allows for people to have their curiosity tickled a little bit, right? We're not gonna give them everything that they want all up front. You've probably seen the videos on YouTube where they like sort of tease something up front at the beginning of the video, but then right as it gets to the part that you wanna see, they like cut it and then they go back to the beginning of the story. That is one way that people, that's one style that they use to build tension. It works really, really well. So one thing that I saw earlier, a video that I was just watching the other day, I've been looking at 3D printers, something that I've been getting into. And this person that I watched, they got this 3D printer and they were reviewing it, and I was curious to know how well it performed. But as part of their video, they put it on this, they put the 3D printer on this incredibly wobbly table. Now, any of you who know anything about 3D printing know that a 3D printer needs to be steady so that as it like 3D prints in the air, right, it's not gonna just like go all over the place. But they were shaking this table, and I can't even tell you, I'm so shocked that the 3D printer didn't even just fall off the table. But in the video, they said later on, I'm gonna show you how this 3D printer is so stable and it has these stabilizing settings that even though the table shifts like this, it can still print. And then later on in the video, they did it. And that kept me hooked. I was like, there's no way that that printer can do that. And honestly, it sold me on the printer too. So, there's so many ways that you can do it. Whether you're reviewing stuff, whether you do any other style of channel, you can build this in, and it's so important. One thing that I would also say, as you do challenges and as you, make stakes and you build tension, it's okay for you to be vulnerable and honest about certain setbacks that you have in the video. That's something that makes for a great story. As you have setbacks, as you set stakes, or you set parameters for your video, if you fail, or if you just didn't quite make it, or you made it just by the skin of your teeth, let people know. You don't have to feel bad about failing the challenge. People like to see sort of this ebb and flow. They like to see you struggle a little bit. It makes for a great story. The last thing here is a little bit more of a practical application type thing, but I want you to focus on the visual. Now, this might feel really obvious since we're talking about YouTube, which is a video platform, but you would be shocked, and maybe you even know, that so many people don't focus on the visual. Rather than focusing on the visual, they just like way over explain everything. That's something that we're even trying to do better about on this channel, is giving you better visuals so that you can envision what it is that we're talking about. Not only is this going to enhance the storytelling, but it's going to capture your viewers' attention. People, again, so many people when they're watching YouTube, it's a very visual experience. It should be. That's the whole purpose. And so as there's things coming up on screen, or they're seeing visual representations of whatever it is you're talking about, they are going to be so much more engaged. So, starting with strong B-roll. I'm talking about not just a screenshot, but what can you do to that screenshot to make it more interesting? Could you, have the screenshot appear and then zoom in on a specific spot and then do like a little highlight circle? And you might say, well, I would love to do that, but I don't have the technical abilities. Well, what if you had a desk and you had a camera pointing down at the desk and you just had a printout rather than a screenshot from your computer? What if you just print out the screenshot and then you can use a Sharpie marker or a whatever, and you can circle the part that's important. And then all you have to do is zoom in the editor. There are so many ways that you can accomplish things like this. It's gonna make a big difference. Outline everything in your video that should be shown visually. When you're going through your editing process, just watch through the video one time, take out a pen and paper or have a note on your computer and note down every little thing that you want to be visually shown in your video. After you've listed all these things out, I want you to separate them into easy, medium, and hard. So what I mean by that is, if I feel like visually I want to show a shot from the top of a mountain, that's going to be kind of a hard thing to get. It's going to take time, it's going to take resources. I put that into the hard category. Maybe you have some things that are medium difficult, maybe it's, outside of your home or whatever, but you could feasibly do it. And then I want you to get the easy things. Maybe that's a screenshot. So I want you to separate them into easy, medium, hard. Now, after you do that, what I want you to do is I want you to separate all of those now into two camps. Descriptive visuals and visual metaphors. I want you to do this because the descriptive visuals are going to be those visuals that are just super key to making your video as helpful as possible, or to make it so that people understand the storyline and what's going on. So things like screenshots, right? If you're showing a specific process, those are going to going to be really important to help your audience know what you're doing so they can follow along. This could be text on the screen. These are more of like the basic type of things that are going to help your video move forward on a very practical standpoint. The second part of this is the visual metaphor camp. And I want you to think of things that are going to help your audience feel certain things and have certain emotions. You know, this could be like in editing, you put something like a clock ticking. You know, maybe you're doing a challenge and there's, you know, time is running short. And so you put like a visual of a clock ticking and then a sound effect of a clock ticking. It could be something like a time lapse of the sun rising and setting. So it's stuff that's like maybe more cinematic. Maybe it's stuff that's just going to more visually give people an idea. You know, maybe it's like just random B-roll of you working crazily at your computer or at your sewing machine or whatever. It's not something that necessarily you have to move the story along. It's not something that the audience has to see, but it's really going to make their experience in your video a lot better. Now, once you have these two things separated out, I want you to take, you know, you have the easy, medium, hard in the descriptive side, and then easy, medium, hard in the visual metaphor side. And I want you to pick out of those lists, which are the most important for your video. And I want you to start chipping away at those. Get as many visuals as you can in both of these camps. If there are some super hard ones to gather, sometimes it's just like, man, I wish I could have this in the video, but there's just no way. You know, maybe there's some stock footage out there that you could get. And maybe it's just not possible to get it, but it's good to think through every little thing that should go in your video so that it's as good as possible. I know that's a lot. There are a lot of things, you know, from visuals to leaning into the conflict to building good characters on your channel. I know that feels like a lot, but just think, these are 3 generally simple things that you could do. And I promise you, as you do these things, people are going to feel more connected with you. There are so many of you out there who, again, say you're struggling to get subscribers. This is one of the big reasons people don't subscribe to your channels. Your channel is not growing because they don't feel connected. There's no reason for them to come back to you. They don't want to bookmark your channel because they don't feel like there's anything there for them. Give them a reason to come back. Give them a reason to stay. I know you guys can do this. If you want to become a better storyteller, getting people to stay on your videos longer and on your channel longer, becoming a dedicated member of your audience, join our storytelling challenge today. Get in there, don't hesitate. And if you just need overarching help getting your strategy for 2025 all set up, go check out this video. It's going to help you a ton. See you, channel makers.